Now, I actually don't know what episode this is. I think we're 30. Is this 31 or 32? I don't remember. These are starting to merge. I'm running out of episodes. I think we're on 20. I mean, I could just open Spotify and check, but let me see. I'm actually curious.
If you tell me, I'll keep track.
Yeah, we might have to. I should know it. That's my fault. Episode, I'm going to say, are we on, could this be 32? Could I be correct in saying that's episode, okay, 29. I was close.
28.
I don't know why I thought we were on 30 already.
I was closest without going over. I said 28.
What is this?
29.
I didn't realize I was on one of those game shows. That seems like a, what's his name? Steve Harvey sort of show. Can you name the number without going over?
I saw one with RuPaul, as in drag. RuPaul drag out.
I always confuse him with.
He wasn't in drag.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was just an announcer on the show. It's very weird because I kept expecting him to come out after each commercial in drag.
Yeah. Like those movie theaters, like the actors that do Frozen, not the movie, but when they do the live Broadway thing, and there's someone that stands behind them and pulls the dress so that unveils the other dress. That's how I know
this. You know more than I do.
Yeah, that's how I feel like RuPaul comes out after every commercial.
That's what I kept expecting. What outfit's coming out next? And he never changed.
So I was telling my mom all day, there is no interesting news this week. I feel like we're in a little dry spell of it's all inflation. It's all inflation news, and I can only talk about inflation so much. I don't know if you have any. I actually didn't check yours.
I do have. My first story today is, or my first article is about America would be a better place if we taught the truth about slavery.
We're starting off.
Boom! Right?
Oh, okay. Boom. Well, we got to cut this one instantly.
Yeah.
Speaking of terrible people, what's her name? Take me to the top. It's save me from where I was. There we go. The rise and fall of Elizabeth Holmes.
Oh,
you know who that is?
Yes.
The former Theranos CEO found guilty of wire fraud and conspiracy, whose prosecutors say still shows no remorse to her victims. So I always found this.
And by the way, they caught her trying to go to
I know.
Mexico.
I was just about to bring that up. Way to ruin my articles. But
sorry.
So I always love this story because this was huge, probably like 5 years ago, would you say, when it blew up? So this lady, this was before Ancestry.com, remember?
Yeah.
So this lady, here, let me take it back. For those of you that don't know this story, this lady started she was supposed to be like the female Steve Jobs, remember?
Yes.
So she made a company that basically was able to track your roots using like blood systems and like a little bit of blood. We could tell your whole ancestry. She was making millions of dollars.
Wait a minute. The actual business started as we can do one test and we can test for all these different things.
Right.
Part of it was the ancestry.
Yeah. The rest was all like cancers, like any genetic stuff, right? So she was this huge, she was like a star. She was like supposed to be the next billionaire. Mm-hmm. The weirdest thing was she had like a super deep voice for a woman. Do you remember this?
I don't know if I
remember. And the only reason that takes, why that's a note is because when she got caught, remember her voice changed? Like she was always like...
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. She would purposely deepen her voice so that she seemed more like manly, I guess, or something. And then people said, like coworkers would say, yeah, when we went out and we went drinking, her voice just completely changed. But yeah, this lady was the ultimate con artist because what ended up happening is someone, I don't remember the whole story of how it collapsed, but basically they just found out that everything's fake. Like there was nothing. They just take your blood, put it through a machine that gives no information. Right. But she sold the company to not sold the company, but investors were investing these famous multi-billionaires.
Betsy DeVos and her family invested.
She
was the Secretary of Education under Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But the family has a lot of money, and many of them invested in all these. Many wealthy families and private individuals invested in her company. Thinking that it actually, but they did no due diligence. They relied on other people. I don't know the full story either. I remember when she got attention on, I think it was Forbes, like, the next up and coming CEO.
She was supposed to be huge because it was like the first real medical innovation since like the big pharma companies start.
It's not just that. She's an attractive young female.
You think she's attractive?
Well, at the time when she first started, she was a bright Stanford grad, I believe, attractive female, and the media world craves any type of minority, female, whatever, to elevate them. Sometimes that's great, and sometimes they rush it. And
now, what's also interesting, if I remember right, this was booming while, remember that Mark Scarelli was his name? Remember the guy who was the big pharma guy who made insulin like super expensive? Oh, yeah. Remember that guy? Martin Scarelli?
I don't remember the name, but...
So that was tanking because he was on trial, if I remember right, for... he jacked up the price of insulin incredibly high. And I think the idea that he was going for was... It was the idea that if he wanted to screw over the insurance companies. So he knew that if people had good insurance, he could tank the insurance companies by making it so expensive, the insulin for diabetes so expensive. The people would only have to pay like $10 while the company would have to spend like $19,000 or something. It made no sense.
Oh, billing the insurance.
Yeah, billing the insurance and then tanking the insurance, and it just didn't work. And then he was seen as a fraud, went to jail. I still don't know. I mean, again, he must have done something. I never looked into.
How does that tie into Theranos?
Well, I'm just saying. So he was failing. He was on trial, and everyone's like, "The medical world's screwed," whatever. And then she has this booming company that's doing Ancestry.com. Well, at the time was basically Ancestry.com at that point.
Or they were using her service.
Yeah.
My understanding is it's not just that. She allowed other people to take the fall for her. I believe one person committed suicide over it. Okay.
Really?
One of her top level people. I got this from a friend of mine who watched the documentary that was on about it and was just appalled at the whole thing when she saw just how manipulative this woman was. And
I'm looking at her right now. She looks like a crazy person.
She does, but think about it. Some very intelligent people allowed themselves to be manipulated by this crazy person, which really makes you wonder just how. I mean, it's not just men who can be manipulative. Women are capable of it also, and she's a perfect example of it. And then to see she's supposed to do 11 years, which some people complain that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And for what she did. And, it's another lesson learned to people about do your due diligence.
Yeah, that's where I guess it's just that there's so many huge companies out there that aren't like in the limelight, but you would think that a company that's getting this big would have people looking into it like crazy up and down.
Well, that's why it's getting so much attention, not just because of her, but because everybody touted it as the next up and coming, life-changing, blah, 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 medical world-changing discovery. All sounds good. Where's the research? Where's the background? Where's the data? She even convinced these intelligent individuals to put tons of money into it. And it's one of those, it happens every once in a while where even the brightest and the best get that wake-up call of, you know what? You were duped.
Yeah. But as I was saying, so as you said, so she just went through trials and whatever, and now she just got
sentenced recently to 11 years.
Yeah,
in prison,
which is, deserved probably.
Yeah,
but she was caught trying to flee to Mexico.
Yeah, like one-way
ticket to Mexico, and her someone else high up in the company did that same thing, got away with it, but came back after 6 weeks. So probably moving money, if we were to guess.
Well, Mexico, you could hide in Mexico and they don't find you.
Yeah, because they're
not gonna bring you back.
I just think it's funny that this lady.
That's why they normally take your passport when you're they request to have your passport taken. Like Sam Bankman-Fried, they took his passport so that they can't leave the country. But
right, I saw a video the other day of Sam Bankman-Fried some guy's at an airport, right? And Sam Bankman-Fried must have been flying nationally. International is
outside the country.
Outside. What's in? I'm tired.
Domestic.
I won't lie to you. Domestic. Thank you. But the guy was like, I lost $600,000 to FTX, and I'm watching Sam Bankman-Fried play video games on a laptop in front of me.
It's just disgusting.
It's so weird how that works, right? But
well, how long do people want to take it? That's the difference. When do we start pushing for change?
I had another one about. Oh damn! I guess I didn't keep it. I'm sure I can find it real fast, but damn it, there was another one another scam. I guess I forgot to save it. Shit. But basically, this lady did the same. So J.P. Morgan, I believe, J.P. Morgan Chase, just bought a company. I think they bought it for $179 million and ended up being a scam. Let me see if I can find it again. Hold on, I have to find this.
Was it a scam?
Yeah, so basically this lady had her name was Charlie something. Shit, hold on, sorry. It was called like Frank. All right, here we go. Boom, thank God. Just because I thought this was so interesting. So how Charlie Javis got J.P. Morgan to pay $175 million for a financial aid company for colleges. So this person, they don't have a real picture of her. It's like a cartoon picture. So I guess they don't.
What's the name of the company?
So it's called Frank, I believe. Let me see. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Yeah, it's called Frank. Company called Frank.
Frank?
Yeah, like the name Frank. It heralded a unique opportunity for deeper engagement. 5 million students worked with at more than 6,000 American institutions of higher education. So I believe it was what it sounds like is a company that helped kids find financial aid or get into schools. Like it was just like a college system for high schoolers to find the college that they want to, get plans, scholarships and stuff.
Okay. And
it seems like it was fine, but like when you think of companies that do that, Frank's not the big one. Like this was one of those. Yeah, so there's I'm trying to think of the company that we used to use back in high school. Remember there was a company that all the students would use that to help get into colleges. Like it was remember you talked with your counselor about it? Shit.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac?
No, it was maybe Kenny will remember.
Sally
no,
Mae,
it was just like it was a system of like throw your application in here. It'll tell you what colleges you might get into, like where you'll go. It's a whole system, right?
ACT? The ACT board?
No. It's like an actual website that you plug stuff.
Naviance?
That could be it.
Where they did the scatter plot and everything?
Could be, yeah.
Naviance was just like a put your data in there, and it was.
Yeah, this seems like it's that, but just a little bit more updated, I guess you could say. But that's besides the point, I guess. But it was essentially just like, hey, here's your grades, all that stuff. These are most likely the colleges that you're going to get into. Here's some scholarships you could do. It was a really nice tool. But, again, no one's ever heard of it. So J.P. Morgan's like, I mean, if it's doing this well, let's buy it, right? And I guess what ended up happening is they claim to have 5 million more users than they actually had, which is... I mean, that's significant. Yeah. That's enough that you're going to get caught. But she already sold it. So I'm curious what happens when you sell a project to someone for X amount of billions of dollars, it gets finalized. Can you still go back and sue?
Sure, you can.
You can.
Yeah, that's what Musk wants to do with Twitter. He was duped because the product wasn't what they said he was buying. And same thing with it. You can do it. Doesn't mean you're going to win.
Right.
But, you can go back and say, because you do documents based on the validity of the company, financial reports, how valid are they? And if you say you had 5 million customers at the sale and you can't produce those 5 million customers factually, that's a breach of contract. So you can go back and say, you know what, I want my money back.
Yeah.
Or my stock investment or whatever, however you purchased the company.
Oh.
You can do it.
Okay, so she's kind of screwed then.
Yeah,
I was going to say, hey, she's off with 175.
No. Unless she can prove somehow that no.
Yeah, she said, of course, she's going to say, yeah, of course.
But she's got to document it and show those people. Actual numbers, actual individuals, maybe even bring some into court.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I think you're going to hear more of that. $179 billion for a company. Oh, wait, hold on. Billion. Yeah, it can't be billion. Yeah, million. Jeez.
Yeah.
Billion would be.
Which is not a huge amount by today's standards for some of these companies. But, fraud is fraud. And if that's the case. But I will tell you, if I was J.P. Morgan, was that Jamie Dimon or was he Chase? I would be looking at the people that ran that deal and say, where's the young kid fresh out of Harvard grad school who did the due diligence on that company and didn't bother to verify at least 1 million of the 5 million customers.
Yeah, it sounds like it was. Well, I'm wondering if it was. I don't know what the actual user base was, but let's say it was 2 million and then they added the 5 million. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. But if it was like 30 million and then they add 5 million, it's still a lot, but it doesn't look as bad.
Right.
Like still 30 million is a lot.
Right.
But again, I've never heard of this company, and you would think that a company that J.P. Morgan's buying is at least better known.
Well, we're not in the know for every company.
I know everything, Mother.
Yeah, really. Especially
My opinions are facts.
these newer companies that come out of nowhere.
Do you want to do another one?
Yeah, this is a really neat article. This is called Inside the LC, the strange but mostly true story of Laurel Canyon and the birth of the hippie generation. I found this really fascinating. I sent it to a few people. So David Crosby just died this week, right? At 81?
Yeah.
Okay. Laurel Canyon is a hills community between Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley. It was a wooded, rustic area. In the 1960s and 70s, some musicians, singers, artists, writers, that's where the hippie movement grew. Okay?
Can you, take me back. What is Laurel Canyon?
It's an area
because it is
between Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley. Back in the 50s and 60s, it was just a wooded area,
right.
Not developed at all. And for whatever reason, a bunch of these musicians, singers, and artists started to settle in that area, and it became like the hippie culture place of the 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. And at the same time that this was starting, okay, you had... oh,
geez, did you see what date this article is?
What is it?
This is 2008.
Okay, but still, I thought it was very interesting. It's a history type.
How the hell
did
you even find this?
It popped up in my recent feed, and I've never known this stuff. Same time the Vietnam War was starting in 1964. This is just a side thing. So in August of 1964...
Okay, remember how I was saying I was terrible with dates? Korean War was first or Vietnam War was first?
Korean War was first. That was in the 50s.
50s, then Vietnam.
Vietnam was in the 60s.
I always F those up.
This is going to tell you. In August of 1964, literally a year before I was born, okay? A man by the name of Admiral George Stephen Morrison. Keep that name in mind. He came under attack while patrolling the Tonkin Bay in Vietnam. Now, for those of us who don't remember this, because I wasn't even born yet, Tonkin Bay is kind of what drew us into the Vietnam War. Okay, we were patrolling.
Why'd you say it like that?
Because that's how people say Vietnam.
Vietnam.
It's actually pronounced Vietnam, but it was in seas that we were patrolling, and as usually the case, you get drawn into a war. Somebody attacks a ship that was just minding its own business, meaning the Americans. All of a sudden, we have to retaliate. A few months later, we start sending troops into Vietnam. There is some legitimate questions as to whether this ship was actually attacked, or if it's what we call a false flag, meaning we attacked ourselves to make it look like they did it to get involved in this war. Right. Okay. It caused the using involved. There's a debate of whether it was a false flag operation. So, take us back to Laurel Canyon. Some very interesting rock legends emerge. We heard of James Morrison of the Doors.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. James Morrison started to make a name for himself out of Laurel Canyon in that group there. He was one of the people in that area producing music and joining it. He turns out to be the son of this Admiral Morrison. He had quite the military background, Jim Morrison. Military, right? Another person that you might be familiar with, Frank Zappa. He was kind of the father of this community, I've
heard this story before. I think I heard this on Rogan.
He had the Logan cabin. Okay, so his was like the main house there, or one of the original houses. It was a giant retreat in this Laurel Canyon area. A lot of people came, visited him, and spent time. He had an actual contempt for the hippie culture. So consider that. He was the father of it, and he actually looked down on that culture that he sort of created. His personality was a very rigid, authoritarian control freak. He actually supported the Vietnam War, or the conflict in Asia, he said. Frank was, his father was a chemical warfare scientist, and he did a lot of classified military work. So Frank grew up in military compounds his whole life. It's interesting. Jeez. So now you got Morrison with a military background. Frank, okay. Zappa's manager, his name was Herb Cohen. It's another name people wouldn't really recognize, but he was a former U.S. Marine. He sold weapons in the Congo to the Congo Prime Minister Lumumba, who our CIA later tortured and killed. So this was somebody in the Congo area. Again,
I'm realizing this is a dark podcast today.
Military background. Well, it's very interesting. It keeps going. Frank's wife was Gail Zappa. Her name was Gail Zappa. She had a long line of naval officers in her family. She was secretary of the Office of Naval Research and Development. She went to naval kindergarten with, guess who? Jim Morrison. Right? He later attended high school in Alexandria, Virginia. This is Morrison. So he then went on to high school in Alexandria, Virginia, with John Phillips and Cass Elliot. Do you know who John Phillips is?
No.
Cass Elliot?
No.
The Mama and the Papas.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
All
I know
the
name.
leaves are brown. The leaves are brown. So John Phillips.
Wow, that sounds like a good song.
Oh no! Well, for the older group, they were classic.
The
Music
leaves
of
are
the 60s,
brown.
70s. The Mamas and the Papas. Ask Dad when he comes home. He'll know exactly who they are.
Okay.
Wilson Phillips, you know that group?
Yeah.
Contemporary? Well, the one who's Phillips, that's her father.
Okay.
John Phillips was her father. And there's a.
So basically, I need like a family tree here from
well,
Laurel Canyon.
It keeps going, but it's really interesting. Charles Manson and his family.
Okay, this is that one.
They spent some time.
Yes, I
in
definitely have heard this story. I've heard that. Right, it was a military thing. They also.
It wasn't a military thing. It was a hippie.
Well, I think there's more to this
retreat.
story that they're not going to talk. Right, let me tell you the
it's-
conspiracy theory.
Well, hold on.
hold
Let me
on.
finish with
Okay,
these
go
people
ahead,
first.
and then I'll tell you.
John Phillips, Mamas and the Papas. He was the son of the Marine Corps Captain Andrew Phillips. He also went to a lot of elite military schools. He received his own appointment to the prestigious U.S. Naval Academy. He married Susie Adams. Susie Adams is a descendant of John Adams. Her brother Tommy was a violent racist. No, his brother Tommy turned out to be a violent racist cop, or they inferred racist cop in Alexandria. His mother worked in the federal government. Stephen Stills, as in Crosby, Stills, and Nash. David Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Stephen Stills, he was part of the group Buffalo Springfield also. Springfield, which was a famous band back then, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. He went to an elite military school, lived in military bases. His father was involved in spreading democracy in Central America. He says he served in the jungle of Vietnam before it was possible. So a lot of people said in his story, there's no way he could have served in Vietnam. He's full of it. However, as is usually the case, we send advisors over to these places before we're officially in battle. Like we have advisors right now over there in Ukraine. Okay, we're not in there, but there are military people in these countries. Okay? Now let's get to David Crosby. David Crosby was part of the Byrds and Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Byrds was a famous band also. His father was an Annapolis grad and a World War II
I won't lie to you. I
military
think
officer.
people are falling asleep at this story.
Okay, well, hold on.
You're bringing a lot of people that no one has any reference to.
Oh, well, that's true.
Yeah.
I guess your group is young, but these are very famous people. So
Right.
anyhow,
Yes,
the
that is true.
the irony of this area, and I'm not trying to draw any conspiracy conclusions. They all have very strong military
backgrounds.
But not only that, they all came from very wealthy, elite families. Crosby's family goes back to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and he has an ancestor who's Alexander Hamilton and John Jay. He was a gun owner. The complete opposite of the hippie culture and the hippie background, where they were all about peace, love, no guns, no violence.
Right.
You know, so I just, as I'm reading this, and this is the first time I had seen this, you said you've heard about it. I'm going, boy, this is unbelievable that this is
Many
their
people
background.
come out of Laurel Canyon.
And why Laurel Canyon, too? Because in those days, music was concentrated in 3 cities. Nashville, country music. Detroit, which was the start of Motown.
Right.
And New York City. Out of the blue, this enclave in California springs up.
So the conspiracy theory of that, and I think there's quite a bit of evidence to back this up. I think you can watch this on Rogan. I forget. I remember I was playing. I vividly remember the day I was listening to this. But so the Manson family comes out of there.
Yeah.
And that the theory is that secretly what ended up happening is there's actually a big military base there.
Yeah.
Right? It's a military base that they used, that they tested a lot of drugs on people. One of those being Manson, right? Manson had drug problems. The idea was that he was one of the test subjects for these drugs, and then that's how we got Manson, because there was a lot of evidence that government was protecting him. And no one knows why to this day, why the government, FBI, just kind of turned an eye to it, like blind eye.
Yeah.
The other idea was to the reference of all
Which
these.
5 years ago would have sounded crazy, but
right.
today, not so crazy.
Right. So the other part was, at the time, music was becoming so prominent in the sense of teaches a message. Now, you notice that by that military camp, as you said, a lot of musicians came out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was, I think the conspiracy is that the military and the government wanted to promote these singers to kind of send a message. And if you look at all their music, a lot of the music's a little more, I guess messagey is the right word, like trying to spread a message. And then what's also weird is when you look at interviews and they try and talk about their past, none of them want to talk about their past. So there's something about Laurel Canyon is one of those big mysteries of the United States that no one. That's one of those ones how I think there's a lot to it. I just don't know if we'll ever see the answer to that one.
Yeah,
Like,
most of those people are all gone now.
I would recommend. Look, I don't know the whole story, but if you're really interested in conspiracy theories, you gotta look up the conspiracy of Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
Because I think what really gave it away was the Charles Manson one.
Right. They threw him in there out of nowhere, and you look at it and you go, okay, Manson was there. All right. Well,
and remember, he was a failed singer. That's how he became.
Oh, was he? See,
yeah.
I didn't even know
he was a failed singer. There's a whole story to him, but apparently he was like really good. He was like a really good musician. And then failed, went down the killing route, and then we found out that he was on drugs.
I did know that.
Yes.
You know how I knew that? Recently, Gutfeld, I think it was, mentioned. It's one of his guests mentioned, Charles Manson had a very famous song.
Yeah.
And made a lot of money from it. He wrote a song, and nobody knew that. I got to look that up. Because I just kind of was like,
again,
okay.
Mama, what did I say before? I'm never wrong.
No, that's not true.
Everything I say is... my opinions are facts.
Right. But, I mean, you could have the other side of the story that's not conspiracy.
Of course.
Say a lot of kids reject their childhood, and it was a time where, especially with drugs and everything else, they were trying new things, and they wanted to reject the old ways.
From the music standpoint, yes. But the Manson thing is so weird because FBI knew that he was killing people, and they turned a blind eye. And no one to this day knows why. But we know that he was involved in military bases. No one knows why. Like when you actually look at the background of how the government essentially let him get away with so much, you have to start asking questions about what really goes on in Laurel Canyon.
Well, and you got to wonder, why would they bother? Why didn't they just take him out? If he was a problem and they were done testing things on him?
No,
why
they
weren't
weren't.
They monitoring him?
They wanted. That's the thing. They think they were monitoring him. And
he did a bang-up job, didn't they, when he went and slaughtered a whole family of people?
I think the LSD was I think that's when they were testing LSDs, like LSD stuff.
Well, a lot of people at that time were doing LSD and whatnot.
They were trying to do altered versions of LSD. So, oh no, I have the GoPro still going.
Yeah, I never knew all this background information. This is the first I've ever seen of that.
It's pretty wild.
And I just found it so ironic. And that, to your point, or as you mentioned, many of them don't want to talk about it. I've never heard them asked about their past because I didn't really follow them in interviews.
Most won't even talk about it.
Yeah.
There we go. Just making sure that the GoPro is still going strong.
You would think they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to dwell on the fact that it's the antithesis of everything they stood for.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be the free, love, peace, no war people, and it turns out their whole background is steeped in that. Did they buy? Was it all baloney? The hippie culture?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, that's one of those conspiracies there. I just truly think that there's so much more to Laurel Canyon that we don't even hear about.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I wish somebody would do a deep dive and learn more about that because there's definitely more to that story.
Speaking of killers,
okay.
Alex Baldwin, as he faces in so this was a big one that came out today or a couple days ago. Rust, the movie, with Alex Baldwin, just got charged for manslaughter. So, for those of you that don't remember this story... Involuntary manslaughter. So, for those of you that might remember, Alex Baldwin was shooting an Old West movie called Rust. And what ended up...
He was the producer of it.
He was the producer, which is huge. That plays a huge part in the story.
Yeah.
He accidentally shot someone on set and killed them. Now... involuntary manslaughter. The reason I want to bring this up is because I want to ask you: is that fair and just? I don't really care about what this person has to say. No offense to Josh Campbell, who I'm sure does a diligent job. It's just, I don't know if the charges. Obviously, you did kill someone, but I don't. It's completely accidental. I think it's completely accidental. I don't know. I'm trying to put. I don't know how I want to phrase this, but I'm not saying he's not guilty. But my question is, if he wasn't the producer of the show, the movie, would he be taking any blame for this? Or I don't think it's deserved. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think it was a complete accident. I don't think it's deserved.
Well, I don't know all the evidence involved. But
so the story that I've seen over and over,
it's definitely a person was slaughtered.
Yes.
Manslaughter. And he didn't do it intentionally based on the evidence. So it was involuntary. He didn't mean to do it.
So if you don't mean to kill somebody, and you're charged with it, what are those charges? Like, how's that work? You know, like
well, you could have negligence, like he was
Right.
negligent in the process, but yeah, we don't know all the evidence.
Like,
Were
my
there two
question is
guns
how
involved?
how many
Did he
people?
not pay attention, pick up the wrong gun? Was he responsible?
Well, the
for
real
certain
argument is
things?
why would you ever have a loaded gun on set anyway? What are you ever going to use a loaded?
I don't
gun
know,
for it
but
on?
is there a history
Right.
between these two people? Was he mad at her about something? Right? Could you make the case that he had a motive to make it look like an accident, but it was real? I'm not saying
I
that
think
happened.
too
I didn't
many
look at
people
it,
touch that weapon to make that conclusion.
Right? Well,
Right.
all those people should be.
But
brought up.
this is where I saw a representation of what happened. It's like a computer generated version of what happened.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's in it's like a church setting, and he's got a gun.
Yeah.
Camera's right here, and he's like, they're talking and stuff, and he's just got the gun, and he's like joking around with it. Which, again, you can make the argument that you should never point a gun at anyone, even if
Right.
it's a fake gun.
Yeah.
But I'm not defending Alex Baldwin, but think of how many movie sets that guy has been on in his life.
Yeah.
How many live guns has he seen? Probably a lot. He knows the difference or whatever. Or not that he knows the difference. It's just like, let's say you do 100 movies. You've shot a fake gun that doesn't shoot any rounds 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
Right? And now all of a sudden you shoot one, and that's the one that ends up killing, and it being loaded. Right? So
Yeah, I don't know.
it's so weird. Like, there's no way that it was his fault in the sense of he wanted to do this on purpose. Again, if they're good friends, like, that's what I mean. Like,
Well, I don't know that. To your point, number one, do they have loaded guns on sets? So right there, if a loaded gun was there, who put that gun there? Why is it there?
and you wouldn't give it to an actor; you'd give it to a trained professional.
But
right?
why? If you don't have loaded guns on the set, why would they have anything
Exactly.
in it? So
Right.
that would be the first question. And, obviously he's just shooting whatever's given to him.
Exactly.
Unless we don't know the full story. That's the point. We
Well,
don't know all
he
the
wasn't.
evidence.
He wasn't. He was playing with the gun essentially. But again, you're not thinking that it's a loaded gun when you've done 100+ movies of non-loaded guns. And if you are going to have a loaded gun, I doubt he's shooting the guns himself. If anything, you're going to have another guy, a professional, shoot the gun so that you don't have to do multiple takes and whatever, go through ammunition. So what are the odds that he gets a real, like, to your point, I do want to know what the loaded gun was for, like, ammunition
why
wise.
was it even there?
Maybe they're doing a shot where a stunt double's going to shoot something that's real just for effect, but
Do they have
is that on him or
sometimes?
is that on whoever's running what's it called, the arms smith, I think, in a movie?
Oh, I don't know.
So there's someone that
Person that's
manages the
responsible for the
weapons.
guns.
Yes,
Yeah.
for weapons. And
So Baldwin should have checked the gun, according to George Clooney.
no way. I think that's George Clooney not wanting to get involved and play the same. Because think of George Clooney. Right? He played Bond at some point, right? Was Clooney ever a Bond?
Has he ever bombed in a movie?
No, was he ever a Bond, a James Bond?
No.
Okay.
But
Well,
he's been in gun
gun movies. So
yeah.
he knows, like, how often are you getting a loaded gun? That's the first thing that I would ask any actor who's done a lot of movies like that.
Yeah,
How often are you holding a gun that's has a actual bullet in it?
He said, every single time I'm handed a gun on the set, every time they hand me a gun, I look at it, I open it, I show it to the person I'm pointing it to, I show it to the crew, Clooney said.
Good for him. But how
Every
many?
single take.
Do we believe that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
mean,
You know, Clooney, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think.
number two,
all
he
people would
shouldn't
do
have
that.
pointed the gun at a human, an ex-cop says. Well,
Well-
that was the scene. Oh, I assume so. I don't know. Maybe.
But if you're told this is a fake gun, right? And you're an actor. You're not using live. So I guess that
Was he
answers the
told
question.
it was a
I
fake
guess
gun?
that's the argument. That, well, he's the writer, right?
No.
If he's the producer,
but that
he
doesn't
knows
mean
when.
anything.
But he should know that when a real gun's being used and when a fake gun's being used.
Well, I guess that was Clooney's point. You should know when they're using real or fake. Now, we're assuming that he knew it was a fake gun. Maybe the gunsmith said, hey, that's the real one. We're going to go get the fake one. He didn't pay attention because, let's face it, Alec Baldwin's a little screwy. He didn't pay attention and he's joking around and he fires it. I don't know. We don't have the evidence. I don't know. The interviewers, I don't know. He shouldn't deny about pulling the trigger. He denied pulling the trigger. He made too many public
No, that
statements.
is true. So what he did apparently is he pulled it's a revolver, right?
Yeah.
He pulled the hammer back, not the trigger, and when he released the hammer, it shot the bullet. You can shoot a
Okay.
gun that way. So that's another one where technically he didn't fire the gun, right? He just pulled the hammer back, not knowing that there was a bullet in there. But you would also make the argument that if you have the hammer pulled back, you can see the back of the bullet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if he shoots often, but you might not be able to know the difference between a blank and a real.
Let me understand something, because you probably read more about that than I do. You could have a real gun. They normally have a real gun, but there's no bullet in it.
Yeah, you
and
have blanks.
They simulate the shot. So, but you'll see a blank in the chamber.
A blank is a blank. There's different types of blanks, but a blank is a bullet. Yeah. Right? It looks like a bullet, but it doesn't have a cap. Like it won't. There's no gunpowder in it that'll actually shoot the top of the bullet. Right. Okay. You have a bullet shell. Yeah. The bullet's at the top. Right. Mm-hmm. All the gunpowder is in the shell. Yes. Right. Inside there, I believe. Blank just has there's something that's like an explosion inside, right? But it's not anywhere. It's not enough to shoot out to
a person.
A cap.
It just simulates it.
Remember Bruce Lee's son though?
Yeah.
When he put a blank to his head, it's enough to get it. Like if you were to shoot it like this from here, you could do some damage.
Right, but a distance.
Yes, it's not going to do anything. So he probably figured it was a blank if loaded.
I guess so. I mean, I have not followed it into detail.
Here's the other question, right?
Yeah.
Say you have a revolver, right? A 6-shot revolver.
Yeah.
The bullet's gonna be if you're holding the gun like this, right? And you have 3 empty slots, and then you don't know what's in here. If I look at this, is how you'll know if someone was screwing around with that gun and wanted to actually do some harm. If there's 6 bullets in there and each one's a blank, and for some reason the one in the top is a real bullet,
who loads just one?
That would be very telling. Yes.
Right. Oh, so was it a pistol?
Yes, it's a revolver.
It was a revolver?
6-shot revolver.
Oh, okay. I didn't even realize that. So, that makes sense. It's an old Western.
Yeah. Colt.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what... They must have evidence to support the charge, or...
Well, is it evidence to support the charge, or is it the fact that he's the producer and he's taking the charge while
he fired the gun.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, though, because I don't think that...
He fired it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You're completely right. It's just...
prove that somebody else had... malicious intent or was negligent and gave him a gun that shouldn't have been
it has to be negligence. It has to be.
However, Mickey Rourke declares, quote, no way in hell Alec Baldwin should be charged.
Yes, I kind of agree with that. If he wasn't the producer, definitely not. It does get dicey when you are the producer because you are supposed to be overlooking everything. But you have arms people that are supposed to be doing like the checks on all that stuff.
Well, I think that's why we'll probably find that out in the trial.
How do you prove that, though? That's tough.
Why are they bringing these charges? And, there must be a reason why they're saying he didn't mean to shoot her, but he's responsible for that. Remember, a lot of it also has to do with the civil case, too. So if he doesn't win, involuntary manslaughter, now they can go after him, the family can go after him for money. Or the company that he represents, his company. So I will see what I'm going to
follow that trial very
I'll
close.
Look at it a little bit more closely, but something was not right what happened on that set.
Someone did, and I'm going to rule out mistake. I don't think mistake is the right word. I think someone
need to prove that he did not intentionally. It was his understanding that gun had only blanks in it. And if it was the responsibility of the producer, and he's the producer, well, but I think you'll hear more of the story as the case. It'll get a lot of media attention, I'm sure.
All right, you ready for a lighter one?
Yeah.
Midnight Mania. Legendary referee Big John McCarthy takes a stand against Power Slap. No licensed Nevada official should be taking any part. Do you know what Power Slap is?
Yeah, I sent you that video. Did you see that?
I don't know if you sent. I think
awful.
The guy's face. Did you see that one? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, I sent one that they just kept showing two men and one woman, maybe it's 2 women, in the competition, and actually going down, and the one guy started to seize up.
Oh, yeah.
That's how bad it is.
So it's such a stupid sport. I don't know why the UFC is signing this. So Dana White's actually... he's going to have that on the side as well, the slap fighting. It is so stupid. But I just wanted to show you, this guy's face has been going viral because his whole face, from slaps.
Yeah, but Chris, you can make the same case for MMA.
Here's why you can't.
And for boxing.
Because in slap fighting, you can't defend yourself. Right? There's no defense.
No, you just stand there and you take it.
How stupid is that?
But, it's like arm wrestling. What's wrong with arm wrestling?
Because you can fight back. Well, right? The other one, you're just taking slaps.
Oh, I
right?
know.
You just take
it's asinine.
That one's crazy. in comparison to like UFC. You can defend yourself. Boxing, you defend yourself. In this, there's no defense. So that's mainly why Big John McCarthy.
You get to slap back. You get a chance to slap back.
Right, but in the act, there's no defense.
Yeah.
Hey, look at how his whole side of his face
Oh my god.
swelled up.
To
He looks like Stewie.
Yeah,
Stewie
that looks
Griffin.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I could see it there too.
And he ended up winning because the other guy felt bad, basically. He was like, oh, man.
It's just not a...
It's such a bad
it
idea.
needs to be
And,
banned.
and here's the other thing. Boxing, like, millions of dollars, right? Millions of dollars on the line. I think the winner for this is like $1,000. Like, I thought that was hilarious.
How desperate are people for any kind of...
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why, of all things, they do that.
It's
like,
not even a sport. It's...
He literally slapped the beard off of him. So... Big John McCarthy's basically saying, "Hey, this should not be a sanctioned sport."
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with him on that. Like slap fighting, as funny as it is a terrible, terrible idea. These guys haven't gotten a lesson in CTE. Seriously, clearly,
Yeah.
CTE is
when I
not
saw
in
those
there.
people seizing up just like the Tua on
Yeah.
the field,
Yeah.
you know that this is not. That's just not right. It's just no. Sorry.
What
just
are
no.
those? Do I have some gaming stuff? But how about this one? We kind of talked about this. Sister and Spice. Sister wives Janelle Brown reveals secret to her 100-pound weight loss.
Yeah.
Spicy fruit most people hate. Would you like to take a guess what it is? What do you think helped her lose 100 pounds?
The diabetes drugs.
No. Okay. Pay attention to the article, Mom. Weight loss is a spicy fruit most people hate.
Peppers?
What fruit is it? Yes, what kind?
Caliente?
No. Caliente, wow.
Caliente pepper. What type of pepper? Jalapeno?
Yep.
Oh.
It's actually kind of a smart idea. I have considered doing this when I was younger, but jalapeno, there's something interesting about jalapenos where, well, anything spicy, right? The spice, it doesn't actually get you, but the brain goes, we don't like spice, so don't eat it.
Yeah.
But when you have a super hot mouth, what's actually interesting about any spicy food is that it's actually the plant's way of protecting itself against predators.
Yes.
So that's how they evolved. But for us humans who have kind of like, we like the spicy, our brain can process like, oh, we can eat this, it's safe for us. Spice actually doesn't do anything to the body in the sense of, even though it seems like you're in pain, you're not actually hurting yourself. Right? There's no spice that's actually hurting you.
Well, but isn't it very high in acidic content, and that could affect your life?
So if you get, when it gets to certain high levels, like chemical level stuff, what happens is, I don't know the all medical terms, but essentially what can happen is the brain does like a, hey, it's so hot that we're choking. That's essentially it.
Oh.
And it's the brain saying you're choking, but the body's not really reacting. Like the muscles will slightly react, but it's not like anaphylactic shock level.
Oh.
So that's why when you eat something spicy, it actually works very well because the acids in the stomach will actually cause you to stop being hungry. So that does help.
So that's
and
why
you're
she's
still
saying.
getting calories, so you're not depleting yourself.
Okay.
So what she would do is she would get to the point where she felt that even though she still thinks she's hungry, she hit her calories. She knows I'm at 1,000 calories or 1,500 calories.
Right.
I'm done for the day. Let me pop a couple jalapenos, which are 10 calories tops. Most spicy foods are very low in calories and fats and stuff. Like one of the best diet sauces that people use is sriracha sauce.
Yeah.
So Frank's Red Hot, because there's no carbs in it. So pop those in and you're good for the day.
Put that beep on everything.
Put that on everything. Yeah. So that's.
Well, I said Ozempic, which is the diabetes drug. So all the celebrities now, they're getting crap for it because they're saying like Kim Kardashian was taking Ozempic or one of the diabetes drugs.
Diet pills are always dangerous because
not pills,
you don't want to.
Injections.
Yeah, still.
It's like a one-time injection to lose the weight, but some people have said that they've been doing it and it works.
It's dangerous though because you're attacking your insulin levels.
Of course, it's dangerous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's something I
wouldn't
wouldn't
recommend.
recommend
It sets a bad precedence for a lot of young people who think, "Oh, I could do that too, and I'll lose 20 pounds in a week."
Yeah, that's like people who take TRT, like high dosages of TRT. Mm-hmm. What ends up happening is the body can't regulate testosterone anymore once you go past a certain point.
Yeah, there's nothing good about it. You're not supposed to. It's not what
you
it's supposed
can't.
to be used
If
for.
you're forcing your insulin to go up or down when you don't need to be regulating your insulin, I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Well,
like Kim Kardashian probably has a doctor that helps her with it all the time, or celebrities that do it.
It's deceiving in the first place, right? Because she's she's selling clothes based on her figure and making it look like you can have this figure too with these clothes. And if that, I'm not saying she did it. I should say that.
Yeah.
They're alleging that she did it. She claims that she diet and exercise. Some people say you can't lose weight that fast without some sort of intervention. I don't know.
Well, that's not really true. You can lose weight real fast depending on.
Apparently, the time frame that she did it in.
Yeah, I'd have to know.
It was ridiculous.
Like if it's,
I don't follow her that closely to judge her size.
Yeah, I'd like to know if there was like a weight gain, or weight loss amount, like 5 pounds, 6 pounds. Technically, you can lose that in a week.
The numbers that they were throwing around is impossible to do in the time frame she did it. I don't know. Like I said, that's why they were questioning, is she using some sort of stimulant to get that small that fast? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what you would take. To your point, it would probably have to be something that's insulin regulating. So.
Well, no joking. A lot of models would say we used to take speed because we'd lose a lot of weight.
Yeah,
very
cocaine
fast.
Causes you to burn.
Or you know, like
meth, ADD medicine.
Yeah, those type of things that speed up the metabolism, and people lose a lot of weight from it.
It's not that it speeds up the metabolism; it's that it cuts off your you don't feel a need to eat.
You don't feel hunger.
Yeah, you don't feel hungry.
Well, I don't know that these. No, I think it does more because these models, they don't.
Well, I'm sure they're working out on it.
They don't feel the need to eat ever. That's not an issue, and they need to speed up their metabolism because they got to lose a lot of weight fast. Having said that, I think that they think that, oh well, if I use a diabetes drug, it's not as bad as taking speed, which is a drug. Well,
yeah.
You know,
well, one doesn't have the addictive property, right? You're still getting the
probably, yeah. But and what happens when you go off it? Is she going to now balloon to 500 pounds? I don't know. Nor do I really care.
Yeah, I don't know, because your weight's not really, your appetite's not actually fluctuating, right? You're tricking the brain and the stomach to thinking. There's a nerve in the stomach that's supposed to regulate, hey, we're done eating now. I forget what it's called. But with medications, like stuff like that, that will tell you, hey, stop eating. So you're not going to balloon up because it's not that the body doesn't know what to do with the food. It just thinks that it's full.
Interestingly enough, I just read an article today. I should have brought it to the podcast about the intermittent fasting. People that have been doing it and watching certain other aspects are eliminating their type 2 diabetes from it. I sent that to some people I know because
that makes sense.
Their thought process is by doing it, it's allowing all the organs to regulate, right?
That's
at
possible.
The same time. So when you cut off the food, everything quiets down and does what's supposed to do. It's not processing any extra energy or anything, and it's bringing all the organs in sync. So they were saying it's not even just for type 2 diabetes. They're finding that it's helping with other metabolic, mental issues.
Well, that makes sense because when you think about it, right, when you're eating 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, the body doesn't really have a chance to stop metabolizing until bedtime.
Right.
So if you're doing a long metabolism period, right, the reason that people intermittent fast is because it stops you from producing insulin. The second you put something in your body starts producing insulin and glycogen. So the body
when I turn around, you better have a weight going on.
my mom's referencing Crystalia. I showed her a Crystalia clip. But yeah, the body starts regulating glycogen, and then that causes you to the body to go, okay, it's eating time. So now it's going into energy use mode, I guess you can call it.
And let's be honest, far too many people have a body that's going into this kind
of there's way too many.
Stop eating.
Yeah, like late night eating. It doesn't matter what time you eat, but you have to have like a window. You have to have a window.
Well, they did recommend timing in the sense that you have to stop at least 3 hours before bed.
Yeah.
And don't start, I think, until an hour or so after you wake up. It was in the article. And
an hour or so?
Yeah,
what?
Something like that.
That's the worst intermittent fast I've ever heard.
That's what they were saying. But again, if you go to bed at a certain time, you can't eat breakfast at 12.
Right.
Like, that's not breakfast.
I always say wait till
meal.
2. 2 seems to, depending on what time you wake up. Like, let's say you wake up at 6:30. If you can hold out till 12, I mean, you're good. I would say you're still in.
I don't have the article in front of me. I don't think they said it that way, but they were more like, you have to stop eating within a certain amount of time.
What's your last article? Because the rest of mine are all gaming stuff.
My last one is a short one. It's a follow-up about the professor with Muhammad.
So
Muhammad.
Well, you could tell them what happened last week.
So my quick recap. So there's an adjunct professor by the name of Prater. She teaches at Hamline University in Minnesota. She was in art history class. She put on the syllabus, I will be showing pictures of Muhammad. If you're offended, let me know. Nobody said anything. The day of it, she said, today's the day. I'm going to be showing pictures of Muhammad. In certain religions, the Muslim religion, Islam, they do not, members feel that it's inappropriate to have pictures ever shown or to look at the image of Muhammad. And that's debatable that that's actually part of the faith or just certain groups. The day of it, she announced to the class, I'm going to be showing it. If you object, you're free to leave. Won't hurt your grade or anything. Nobody objected. She showed it, and sure enough, a student complained. The university turned around and they fired her for just showing a depiction of Muhammad. Well, she is now countersuing.
Good for her.
She sent, the suit alleges that the university subjected Prater, the teacher, to religious discrimination and defamation. They damaged her professionally and personally, her reputation. They called her actions, quote, undeniably Islamophobic. So she's been labeled with that based on why they fired her.
Right.
The school might review and re-examine their actions. They should not have used the term Islamophobic. That's what happens when you get a backlash. And they're starting to see a backlash from people, and the Board of Trustees and others have now gotten involved and said, well, maybe we were too quick to judgment. That's what a lawsuit does sometimes when you wake them up. Interesting to me was CAIR, C-A-I-R, for those who don't know it. That is the Council on American Islamic Relations. CAIR has a lot of power in this country. CAIR drew a distinction between academic depictions of Muhammad and malicious or negligent depictions. So they sort of backed the professor and said, you know what,
Yeah.
for academic reasons, you can show pictures of Muhammad. It's when you're using it to depict, I don't know, like they do with Jesus Christ, a comedy skit on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Or, if they use Buddha for something to sell bathroom soap. That's what they're saying is inappropriate and you should not use it. The individual, the young woman who brought the complaint against the professor, her name is Wedatala. As an aside, she is the president of the Hamline Muslim Student Association. Okay? So this individual, I assume, saw the syllabus, made no comment, went to the class, was told she could leave, still didn't say anything, waited for the teacher to do it, and then
Just went out of her way. Yeah.
Complaint.
Don't even get me started with that.
Yep. So we'll see where that goes. But it sounds like the university is reevaluating their decision to fire this woman over it, and I hope they do. That was it.
Not fire the woman.
No, I'm sorry. They're reevaluating, and I hope they do.
Yeah. They
reevaluate having fired this person over it. I think she went above and beyond what needed to be done. And the fact that this person the student was a president of the Hamline Muslim Student Association, if it bothered her so much being in that position, I find it hard to believe that she was uncomfortable going to the teacher and saying, well, I do object.
Yeah.
I don't think it's appropriate. So
I don't have any more like mainstream news. I just have gaming news. Another follow up from last week. We talked about Ubisoft.
Yep, I remember.
Canceled 3 games, and then they just pushed back Skull and Bones.
Yep.
Well, as of today, they actually refunded all the pre-orders. So if you pre-ordered it this year, thinking it was going to come out in a couple months.
Skull and Bones?
Yeah, that Skull and Bones game. You got your refund, which is nice. But the question is, Ubisoft never does any refunds. Like, even if you pre-ordered it, why would you give back a refund? So people are wondering, are they going to cancel this game? And then we go back to the question of last week, which was, what's Ubisoft going to do?
Right.
Because they haven't put out a game in 4 years now. Well, by then that'll be 4 years. The only thing that they have going for them is Rainbow Six Siege, and I don't know how many people are putting money into that. Can you do me a favor? Can you just plug in that charger into the GoPro? Because we're on 8%, and I don't know how it went down so fast.
This charger?
Yeah, see how it goes down? But as I was saying, let's see if it...
Where is it?
Bottom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see if it charges.
Can you charge it?
Yeah, I guess it... maybe. I don't know. I can't tell. I would think that was charging, but that's the one downside of the new GoPro. You can't charge while recording. So, but as I was saying...
I was here first.
With Ubisoft, I don't know what they're going to do in the upcoming years. Like, if they don't come up with a game, and I'm sure they have some in store. I know they're working on a new Assassin's Creed, which would be good, but we don't know when that one's going to come out. So I don't know what they're gonna do if they're getting rid of Skull and Bones. Even if they push it out, I mean, Ubisoft needs to do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just a little update on that one. So I thought this was another interesting one. So over a third of game developers are still interested in making Switch games, according to the GDC.
Oh.
Now, the problem with the Switch, as we've talked about many times, the Switch sucks. There's no games for it. There's 5 games for the Switch.
But that became very popular over COVID.
Yeah, because everyone likes Animal Crossing. Like that's like a lot of women
but
like
why
that.
the Switch? Why Switch? You can do
'Cause it's
Animal
portable.
Crossing on other.
No,
you're not
you
going
can't.
anywhere. It was
Switch is
COVID.
only on Animal Crossing's only on there.
Right, but you weren't going anywhere. Why did you need portability? It was during COVID.
It's a little bit of both. It was nice to have. I mean, Animal Crossing was something that was popular when I was a kid, and then the new one came out, so that's why everyone bought it. But there's a lot of game developers that still want to make games for the Switch. It's just a matter of like, what are you gonna make? So you have 2 Mario games that are worth playing, 1 Zelda game, maybe 2, 3. Super Smash. That's probably it. And I know that there's a new Metroid coming out, which is pretty cool, considering we haven't had one in 10 years. But I just don't see how you can keep the Switch going. Like I think the Switch is on borrowed time now that the Steam Deck's out.
Well, I guess someone's done the research that it's worth developing these games, so maybe it's not.
I guess I really don't know. I really don't, because I just don't know, because I have no reason to play it. Not saying that other people don't. It's just most of the games that they do have are single player. Once you beat it, there's nothing to do. There's no real multiplayer.
Well, I'm gonna make this comment as a parent. I noticed this Christmas, now that we're talking about it, there was no real gaming issues for Christmas. You know, usually you had the big game come out, or you got a new console coming out, a new Xbox this, or a Switch. You know, they were big a couple years ago. I don't recall seeing any big game coming out in time for Christmas, or some new console coming out this year. Every year you always had something, whether it was the Game Boy.
It's definitely slowed down.
Yeah, I don't recall any. I mean, you know games because you're looking for it, waiting for them. But like when you'd open the Target flyer, or you open up shopping or online.
I think because everything's digital now. Mostly everything's digital.
Yeah.
Like console-wise, we had the big slowdown because of COVID, and PS5s weren't getting sold.
Right, we talked about PS5.
Yeah. Xbox is still going strong. But what's interesting, and why I wanted to bring this article up, is there's actually a picture of what which platforms are you currently developing for, and then which ones are you interested to develop for. And it's funny, even though the PS5 isn't selling as well as the Xbox because it's so expensive, more of them wanted to develop on the PS5 than the Xbox. By over 10%, 13% more people wanted to develop games for the PS5. And I don't know why that is. I think it's just because the PS5 has better single player games, but I don't know. I really don't. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know why the Switch is still going. Like, I wish these developers would go more towards VR than for the
handhelds.
Yeah, the handhelds or the, because truth be told, I don't even consider the Switch a console anymore. I just don't. Like, to me, it's like just a handheld portable device. That's okay.
But you can hook it up to a TV.
You can, but it's like it's not really a console. It's more like a Game Boy that you can put to a TV with a bigger screen.
I guess that's what they're trying to have, some sort of compatibility or mobility where you could plug it on a TV.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I will say this: if you're a parent, you go on vacation, right?
Yeah.
You have a little kid.
Yeah.
I can pack the Switch, take some games, they can hook it up to the hotel TV.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
And they don't have to truck their whole, PS5 and whatnot. Because yes, people, I've had the PS5 hooked up in the back of my Land Cruiser.
Oh yeah, when we figured out that you can get it on the little TV.
Oh,
tried making that work a couple times.
Yeah.
That was PS4 though, not PS5.
Had you had the Switch, it would have been much easier to take where you go.
Yeah. So how interesting is that? We went from 4% up to 21%. I'm over here stressing out like, are we going to finish? And back to 4. And I'm mad. So I'm like trying to speed through this. I apologize. I don't know why it just started dying real fast, but maybe because we're in high quality now. Maybe. I don't know. But The last one, and honestly the most important one for me, is Warzone 2 is ditching 2v2 gulags for the boring 1v1 showdowns. Hey, whoever wrote this article, shut up. The 2v2 gulag sucks. I'm throwing that out there. I don't mind 2v2s if it was like a good gulag. Not in this. The gulag sucks. I don't like it.
So they're ditching the 2v2
They're
gulag?
doing 1v1s again, which I like. 2v2, we talked about this before it even came out, if you remember. Basically, you could have some random teammate that just dies as well, and then you have to, and then he dies right away, and then it's a 2-on-1, and then all of a sudden they're like, you're taking too long. So they've spawned a juggernaut to come in, and you just get, there's nothing you could do. It's not fun. Like, it's part of the reason why I stopped playing Call of Duty. But as of February 15th, they're adding a small map, and I can start playing with viewers again, because I don't like spending an hour on one game when I can just play. In 1 hour, I can get like 4 or 5 games in of the smaller map, and I can play with viewers. Because no offense to you guys, I don't want to play. Yeah, I don't want to play a 40-minute game with one person.
Yeah,
that's the downside.
And it's better for your stream.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather that gives me a reason to play Call of Duty. But like when you have a big map and 20 people want to play with you, it's not possible to get everyone in one stream. Like with that one, I could.
I have a crazy question. I've been thinking about this the other day. Not to sidetrack you from your story. Is there anything in Fortnite that has to do with a Fortnite?
Yes. So the
battle, Fortnite.
Yes,
14 days.
Yes, the battle royale is actually the reason it's famous. That's the free version that they did in the end. It's actually kind of a long story, but again, we're on 2%, which is making me mad. So basically, the quick version is there's the free version and then the actual paid for version, which I believe is like $40 or whatever. I forget what we paid for it when it came out. It's a wave based game. So basically you can build a fort, right? You can build like a base and then you have to survive X amount of waves up to 14 days.
That's it.
So that's where it comes from. Yes.
Okay. 14.
So it's more than 14, but that's where it comes from. But the battle royale was actually never supposed to be made. They just had the concept. They were like, okay, we'll throw it out there, and it became the biggest thing of all time. Yeah, it's actually really interesting. But as we're on 1% battery, which again, I'm hoping I can. Like, it stresses me out when I look at the battery, and we went from 100% to 2% in an hour and 20. So, like we did 2 hours last week, and now it's like,
and that's a newer camera.
Yeah,
so it's not
I
like
charged it last night too.
Updated.
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, we'll figure that out. Other than that, I'm just going to do a quick rundown of the stuff. So, obviously, all the videos that we posted this week, go check those out, the last podcast. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start putting the full podcast out first on Spotify, then do the abridged version on Tuesday. So, I'm going to change that video time. Tomorrow, or technically yesterday, Sunday, we'll put out the first speed run, which was Devil May Cry 4. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I'm working on a couple right now. So other than that, social media down below, promo codes down below, other streaming links down below, and we'll see you guys next week. Well, you'll see my mom next week, and you'll see me for stream tonight. So
yeah, I don't know what you're doing for next weekend.
Yeah, we'll figure it
Is that
out.
changing?
All right, see you guys.